Thank you. I appreciate you had a long day, and so hopefully this will be another just 10 minutes of something hopefully very exciting, very invigorating, and maybe an opportunity for you to do something a little bit further along with it. It's my honor and pleasure to be with you today to talk about a topic I truly am extremely passionate about, and that's leadership. One of my favorite phrases from John Maxwell is, "Everything rises and falls on leadership." If you don't agree with me just yet, I'm hoping after the next 10 minutes maybe you will agree with that. I don't think there's an aspect of our lives that isn't affected by leadership. You have leadership of self, you have leadership of a team, you have leadership of children or a family unit, you have leadership of your constituents, and you have leadership of leaders. This series is a perfect example of leadership of leaders. I'm awfully glad that you're here for this. In fact, if you think about it, at the heart of every great achievement is strong leadership. Each of your organizations is proud proof of that. What I'd like to talk about today is, very briefly, are 3 laws of leadership out of John C. Maxwell's book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. The ones that I'll touch on, include the law of the lid, the law of influence, and the law of process. Let's first talk a minute about the word talent. You all have God-given talents. But at the same time, I'm sure you know talented individuals who aren't successful, and successful individuals who aren't necessarily overly talented. The difference is their leadership abilities and skill set. So let's first talk about the law of the lid. And let me do a demonstration that John Maxwell does, which helps me to remember and understand the process of the law of the lid. If this hand represents your leadership abilities, and this hand represents your organization, then the concept is, if your leadership abilities are a 5 or a 6, your organization is not going to get past a 5 or a 6. If your leadership abilities are a 9 or a 10, then your business or organization's potential is a 9 or a 10. They cannot be out of alignment. So we want to concentrate on raising our lid to raise our team, our business, or our organization's potential. For you specifically, your leadership lid includes your ability to cast vision for your organization, your ability to get your team of like-minded individuals to head together, to unite those people in a common purpose behind your vision, and to help them see how their own goals are in alignment with the team or organization's goals. It's easy to see how leadership ability will limit the potential of a business. Think of how most people get leadership positions. I can recognize this specifically in the traditional business environment. They're not selected for their leadership ability. They're often chosen for their technical ability in a certain area. As an example, the best accountant will be chosen as the team lead for accounting, but their technical skill is not their ability to lead or manage. So what the organization ends up doing is actually losing the ability or the highest skill set of the technical individual, gets a poor manager in the process, and the organization fails or falls because of it. The law of the lid is never more evident than in this scenario, because the lack of leadership ability is a serious limit to the productivity of the team. The team could be a talented group of people, but their achievements will not rise beyond the leadership lid of that leader. What doesn't happen is business ability doesn't rise beyond that leader's ability. It doesn't happen to you. It doesn't happen to me. It doesn't happen in any type of organization with that structure. Second, let's talk about the law of influence. Let's talk about a stay-at-home mom. Okay? Is she a leader? If she's attempting to influence her children, she's a leader every day. She spends all day doing nothing but leading. She gets 2 to 3 children and negotiates with them about putting their socks on, getting in the car, eating their vegetables, she's a leader. Part of the misconception about leadership is that it is only in certain positions or certain organizations. And this premise says, as a law of influence, everybody is a leader in some capacity. In everything you touch, everything you're involved in, you're an example that people are following, which makes you a leader. An important aspect of this concept of law of influence is that you cannot lead any more people than your ability to influence. Leadership is influence. And here's the good news. You can learn to lead. You can learn that leadership is influence, and that the ability to influence is a result of adding value to people. I'm going to stop for a second and make sure you heard me correctly. The real benefit in the law of influence is your ability to add value to people. I'm going to give you an example in an organization that I was involved in Nashville. And I will tell you for my own benefit, I didn't know then what I know now about what I did then. So I want you to understand there was no lesson until many years later when I figured it out and the light went on. I had recently joined an organization in an industry I had never been in before. And as a manager, I was very fearful that the people that I was going to be responsible for would clearly recognize the lack of my skill set in their areas of expertise and in the industry specifically. So I had to try to find a way for these new reports of mine to have confidence in me and to believe that I could add value to them. So literally, I went to two employees in particular that were my most troublesome at the time and said, what do you like about what you're doing? What could you do? What could we do differently? What can I do to help you be better at what you do? And out of both individuals, I got a very firm, honest answer. Accounts payable position said to me, I've only been here a couple of months. People ask me all kinds of questions about things that happened before I got here. And I don't know the answer. So I tell them, I don't know. That was before I got here. I said, well, what's it going to take for you to feel more comfortable with what you're responsible for in the history before you got here, so you'll never have to say, that was before I got here? She said, I don't know. I said, okay, I got a suggestion. How about if we take everything out of everything you have, file cabinets, drawers, everything, and let's look at it, let's go through it, let's make sure it's in a form and fashion you're comfortable with, whether it's filed front to back to front, stapled, clipped, whatever. So literally, we put a little string in front of her cube area, said do not disturb, sat on the floor and emptied everything out of her drawers and put it back in a way that she was comfortable with. She never said, I don't know, that was before I got here, again. But in addition, she respected me for helping her and hence was a much better follower than I ever anticipated. The other woman was in payroll, which I had been in payroll before, but this was an interesting organization with over 100 employees. They had weekly payroll and they had bi-monthly payroll. So when I asked her, what's going well, what can we do differently, how could I help you, she very honestly said to me, you could learn to do payroll so I could take a week of vacation. Okay, I think we can do that. In the probably 10 years she had worked there, there was no one else who knew how to do payroll, no less who knew how to do the two different ones. One was a standard hourly payroll, the other one was a commission-based payroll, which is why it was so complicated. So it took me a couple of months, but I learned how to do her payroll, and she went on vacation, and she called me several times of the respect that I earned from her in doing what she needed most and adding value to her and to her place in the organization was enormous. I still keep in contact with that employee today. But again, it was at least 10 years later when I realized from that example, by using that to other people, that I heard the concept of you have had influence over them, but not because you were their manager, but because you invested time in them and gave them something they could not do for themselves that they valued and appreciated and respected me in return. In the end, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Influence is not about the position. It's about caring for other people, adding value to them. Honing your leadership skills requires you to grow, to get in the growth zone. And unfortunately, the growth zone is not in the comfort zone. Growth takes place outside the comfort zone, not in it. If you are in your comfort zone, you are not growing. Let's look at one of the myths of influence, the management myth. I think people often get management and leadership mixed up. Management can be a part of leadership, but just because you can manage something efficiently doesn't mean you can lead. Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. Management is efficiency, control, manage risks. Leadership is direction, enthusiasm, inspiration, and influence. People often think they're the same thing. They're really not. Monitoring what time people come into work or how long they have for lunch, that sort of thing. It's not about inspiring a team united in pursuit of a challenging goal. Before people are interested in following a leader, there's 3 questions that they need answered from you. Do you care about them? Can you help them? And can they trust you? The last law I want to talk about is the law of process. Leadership skills develop day by day, not in a day. This is true for the development of any skill. It's particularly true of leadership. It's a process. It evolves. You don't read one book and become a leader overnight. You don't attend one training class and become a great leader overnight. It takes time, commitment, and a certain investment in yourself to develop and hone your leadership skills. But if you make that investment, your leadership skills do develop. Anyone that has learned to play a musical instrument, or play a sport like golf or tennis, or even learn a language, understands the law of process. Take an Olympic athlete as an example. I'm sure we all look at them and think, they have such talent. And they do. But what about all the time and practice they've put in to hone that talent? Remember, at the heart of every great achievement is strong leadership. When all is said and done, personal and organizational success comes down to leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. I hope that you found the information I've shared with you helpful. That's, as I said, 3 laws of the 21 laws, as John Maxwell describes it, in Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. So again, it's something I'm very passionate about, so I really would like to offer you the opportunity today, as passionate nonprofit leaders yourselves, to join a mastermind, which is a group of like-minded individuals who will study the 21 Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell at no cost to you. All I ask is that you buy and bring the book and keep up with the 10-week class we will have once a week for the 10 weeks to cover the book. There's a Thursday morning class and a Monday afternoon class, and United Way has graciously offered us their conference room to have that mastermind session. I'll be here if you have any questions, and I hope if you're interested, we will sign up to share this together. Yes, ma'am?
My question is, what is the cost of the book?
It's about $18, I think.